Hey friend, welcome. It's Michaela, but you can call me Mac. Today we are updating the reading journal with all the books finished in February. Let's just jump right into it. First off, I'm starting out by updating my monthly reading tracker, this library checkout card for February. So I actually started reading quite a few books in February. A lot of my books from the library came off of holds. So I think I started reading about 9 or 10 books in February, but I literally only finished 4. The first book that I read this month was a graphic novel called Mooncakes. The second book that I read was called Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. This is the first book in a series that I'm starting. The third book that I read was called The Paris Apartment, and the last book I read was a reread called The Unhoneymooners. Next, I'm going to update my alphabet challenge page, and so I'm coloring in P for The Paris Apartment and U for The Unhoneymooners. I went back and forth quite a bit trying to figure out if I should include these or not, because technically the book starts with The Paris Apartment and The Unhoneymooners. I don't know. I just feel like I don't want to be too strict. Maybe next year I'll be a little bit more strict, but they're getting counted in this ABC challenge. I'm also going to update my graphic novel ABC challenge and color in M for Mooncakes. So I'm skipping over my quotes page because, to be honest, I forget about this page and I don't really think to pay attention to quotes in the book when I'm reading them. So I am going to make a mental note to start paying attention to quotes so I can fill up this page. Moving on to my series tracker, to be honest, I still wasn't quite sure how to use this page or how I wanted this page to look. So I just decided to keep it really simple, and I'm just adding Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, which is the first book in a 3-book series. And then I added these 3 boxes next to it with numbers 1, 2, and 3 in them. And then I'll just fill in the number as I read them. I don't know. I don't know. We'll figure it out. For now, this is how I'm going to keep it. And I'm also going to go ahead and skip my 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards winners page because I did not finish any books on this list yet. I did start reading 2 of them, but didn't finish them in February. The first book that I finished in February was a graphic novel called Mooncakes, a story of love and demons, family, and witchcraft. Nova Huang knows more about magic than your average teen witch. She works at her grandmother's bookshop, where she helps them loan out spell books and investigate any supernatural occurrences in their New England town. One fateful night, she follows reports of a white wolf into the woods and comes across the unexpected, her childhood crush Tam Lang battling a horse demon in the woods. As a werewolf, Tam has been wandering from place to place for years, unable to call any town home. Pursued by dark forces eager to claim magic of wolves and out of options, Tam turns to Nova for help. Their latent feelings are rekindled against the backdrop of witchcraft, untested magic, occult rituals, and family ties, both new and old, in their enchanting tale of self-discovery. First of all, the art in this graphic novel is beautiful. The colors are gorgeous, and the story is just so sweet. This book has such a diverse group of characters. I love the representation, especially how the main character is hard of hearing and wears hearing aids. This would have been just the perfect book to read during October since it gives big witchy vibes. Although I enjoyed the story, the grandmas, they're so cute, and the love between Nova and Tam, the book often felt just a bit abrupt to me. This read kind of like a second book in a series. I felt like I was missing just a bit of backstory. And the story just all kind of happened really, really fast. Same with their relationship. We do get a glimpse of their past, but I felt a bit rushed once they were reunited. And then the end was also a bit lackluster for me, and the story in general was filled with quite a few plot holes. But even with that, I still really enjoyed the overall story. The art was beautiful. I love the cultural representation. I love the diversity. I had to give this book a magical 4 stars. So for February, I wanted to use the book covers in my spreads. So I'm keeping this fairly simple, and I wrote out Mooncakes in the same font style that's on the book cover. And then I just put the cover page on the left-hand side, and I just drew, or attempted to draw, a little plate of mooncakes at the bottom of the page. The next book that I read was called Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. This is the first novel in a captivating 3-book series about modern womanhood in which a young Black woman must rely on courage, laughter, and love, and the support of her 2 long-term friends to overcome an unexpected setback that threatens the most precious thing that she's ever wanted. Tabitha Walker is a Black woman with a plan to have it all. At 33 years old, the checklist for the life of her dreams is well underway. Education, check. Good job, check. Down payment for a nice house, check. Dating marriage material, check, check, and check. With a coveted position as a local news reporter, a paper-perfect boyfriend, and even a standing Saturday morning appointment with a reliable hairstylist, everything seems to be falling into place. Then Tabby receives an unexpected diagnosis that brings her picture-perfect life crashing down, jeopardizing the keystone she took for granted, having children. With her dreams at risk of falling through the cracks of her checklist, suddenly she is faced with an impossible choice between her career, her dream home, and a family of her own. With the help of her best friends, the irreverent, headstrong Layla, and Alexis, the mom jean-wearing former sexy Lexi, and the generational wisdom of her grandmother, and the nonagenarian firebrand Miss Gretchen, Tabby explores the reaches of modern medicine and tests the limits of her relationships, hoping to salvage the future she always dreamed of. But the fight is all-consuming, demanding a steep price that forces an honest reckoning for nearly everyone in her life. As Tabby soon learns, her grandmother's age-old adage just might be true. Black girls must die exhausted. Okay, friend, I really enjoyed this book because it just felt real to me. Tabby felt like one of my friends. I personally like how she was flawed and there wasn't like a true happy ending. I mean, I don't know. This is only the first book in a 3-book series, so it could be a happy ending. But at the end of this book, I just felt like it was more personal growth and like professional development for her. It just felt like you were reading a story about a real person dealing with huge life decisions while trying to live her life and just enjoy her early 30s. I feel like we might be able to relate to having a friend that may not make the best decisions in life, or maybe you are that friend who doesn't make the best decisions in life, where you're just like, friend, stop texting him. Like, stop it. What are you doing? There were definitely moments where I was yelling at the book like, girl, stop entertaining his nonsense. Like, what is this? What is this? I'm just finding recently that I really like books and anime and TV shows and movies that are more on the real side. Like, don't get me wrong. I love a good Disney happy ending, fairy tale ending, or like romance books where the couple falls in love, some huge issue happens, couples break up, couples get back together, everyone lives happily ever after. That's fine. But sometimes, more often than not, real life doesn't work out like that. So it's just refreshing to kind of see a different change of pace and to read something that was a bit more on the real side. I also feel like I couldn't have picked up this book at a better time, as it covers topics like career, marriage, family, fertility, buying a house. Like, those are definitely things that are currently on the forefront of my mind right now. So I just feel like if I read this book a few years ago, not sure I would have liked it as much, but I gave this book 4 stars and I'm definitely looking forward to reading the others in the series. So for my journal page, okay, first of all, the cover of this book is just gorgeous. I love the illustration and I really wanted to pull like the flowers and the leaves from that whole thing. So I cut out some like leaves and a little flower here to kind of tape on top of it, so then you can like bend them up and, you know, reveal the text underneath. I thought it would look cool because it's kind of like the girl is behind the flowers and the leaves. So I wanted my text to be behind the flowers and leaves. And my pen pal gave me this sticker that I thought was just so cute. I think this is what Tabby would look like towards the end of the book and probably at the start at the beginning of the next book, because she tries to start embracing her natural hair a little bit more. And I just love this sticker. I thought this was so cute. I was like, this has to go on this page somewhere. I don't care where it's going, but it has to go. The third book I read in February was called The Paris Apartment. This is like a new locked room mystery set in a Paris apartment building in which every resident has something to hide, and Jess needs a fresh start. Only when she shows up to find a very nice apartment. Can Ben even afford this? He's not even there. She's broke and lonely, and she's just left her job under less than ideal circumstances. Her half-brother Ben didn't sound thrilled when she asked if she could crash with him for a bit, but he didn't say no, and surely everything looks better from Paris. The longer Ben stays missing, the more Jess starts to dig into her brother's situation, and the more questions she has. Ben's neighbors are an eclectic bunch and not particularly friendly. Jess may have come to Paris to escape her past, but it's starting to look like it's Ben's future that's in question. The socialite, the nice guy, the alcoholic, the girl on the verge, the concierge, everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everyone knows something they're not telling. Okay, so for my journal page, I had this grand idea that I was both excited and nervous to try to execute. So the beginning of the book takes place at the gate of the apartment building that you need like a code to get into. And so I just kept thinking about this gate basically, and how the apartment building is described with having like ivy all up and down the walls, and these vines are growing on the walls and all those kind of things. So I really wanted to like lean into that. So I used this metallic gold to color the door. I also recently bought these acrylograph pens from Archer and Olive. These are the first time I've ever used these, and they actually weren't too bad to use. I actually kind of like them. So I'm just using a green color to make the leaves and the ivy on the side of the building, and then I'm also just going to use like this lighter whitish brownish color to make the stone of the building. And then I'm going to attempt to do a Dutch door situation. This is my first Dutch door. I was so excited. I don't really use Dutch doors in my like personal bullet journaling because I don't know, for some reason I feel like I'm losing like space or like losing pages. I don't know if that makes sense, but I wanted to try it out with this. The idea that I had was to have like this cut out at the top and then have the gate so where it can actually open up so then you can like read the journal entry inside of it, I don't know. I was so nervous. Oh my gosh, my first piece is out. I love thrillers, and I became a fan of Lucy Foley after reading The Guest List, so I was actually really excited to read this one. I finished this book rather quickly because the story kept me engaged, and there was slight cliffhangers at the end of each chapter, so I was like, I gotta keep reading to find out what happens. I also really enjoy books where each chapter is told by a different person, especially if the character is interesting, and although I didn't find every single character interesting, I felt like they all had a different insight into pieces of this puzzle that Jess was trying to put together. I also really liked the twist on this, how it was the guy that goes missing versus the girl. I read all of these Local Woman Missing or This Girl Goes Missing books. So it was just actually really nice. And I didn't mind Jess's character. I felt like she was kind of real, and how she was really devoted and independent, and she was trying to find her brother. She didn't really take care of herself that much. She was more focused on, where is my brother? How do I find him? Can anyone help me? That kind of thing. To be honest, after thinking back on this, there was a whole lot of nothing happening in this book, but I didn't actually mind that, if that makes sense. I really, really enjoyed that basically 90% of the book took place in this apartment building. And honestly, I think I would have enjoyed the story a little bit more if the whole book took place in the apartment building, to give it more of that locked room whodunit feeling. I'm giving this book 3.5 stars, but I'm rounding it up to 4 stars on Goodreads because there was a few scenes and characters that I thought were a bit random, and the ending was just okay for me. There was this huge reveal in the middle of the book that I thought packed more of a punch than the ending did. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there was this part where my jaw was on the floor because I was just what is going on? When they kind of revealed something about Ben and kind of how he knew each of the neighbors. I don't want to spoil it. And don't read my review too closely if you don't want any spoilers. Overall, this book wasn't bad. So the last book I read in February, I had zero inspiration for this journal page. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But while I was cleaning out my office, I found these stickers from like my planner that I used to have, the planner that ironically got me into bullet journaling because I never used it. So I just flipped through this sticker book and I found a couple of stickers that I liked. I wanted to stick with the pinks and kind of pull out some of those pinks from the flowers in the cover of this book. For the Unhoneymooners, Olive is always unlucky in her career, in love, in, well, everything. Her identical twin sister, Amy, on the other hand, is probably the luckiest person in the world. Her meet cute with her fiance is something out of a romantic comedy, gag, and she's managed to finance her entire wedding by winning a series of internet contests, double gag. First of all, she's forcing Olive to spend the day with her sworn enemy, Ethan, who just happens to be the best man. Olive braces herself to get through 24 hours of wedding hell before she can return to her comfortable, unlucky life. But when the entire wedding party gets food poisoning from eating bad shellfish, the only people who aren't affected are Olive and Ethan. And now there's an all-expense-paid honeymoon in Hawaii up for grabs. Putting their mutual hatred aside for the sake of a free vacation, Olive and Ethan head for paradise, determined to avoid each other at all costs. But when Olive runs into her future boss, the little white lie she tells is suddenly at risk to become a whole lot bigger. She and Ethan now have to pretend to be loving newlyweds, and her luck seems worse than ever. But the weird thing is, she doesn't mind playing pretend. In fact, she feels kind of lucky. This is possibly my most anticipated reread for the year. I could not wait to reread this book. I read it for the first time in 2020 and I gave it 4 stars then, but for some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about this book lately and I wasn't quite sure why, so I decided to read it again. And now I finally realized why I kept thinking about this book. This book is so funny and so cute. It's probably the best rom-com I've ever read. And the story itself just makes me so happy. Like, I was definitely grinning and cracking up laughing at most of this book. The sense of humor in this book is just spot on to my kind of humor, and the main characters are just really likable. This book is enemies to lovers with some like forced proximity in there, which honestly... My husband Alex, he always makes fun of me because whenever I'm reading a book, I'm like, ooh, there's only one room left in the inn. I love a good there's only one room left kind of situation. So definitely some of my favorite tropes going on there. I really enjoy Olive and Ethan's relationship for the developing romance piece of it, for the humorous nature piece of it, but most of all, and I cannot stress this enough, the communication between these two has to be the best part of the relationship. I mean, friend, you're probably familiar with those like romance books that have the third act breakup scenes because of miscommunication, and you're like yelling at the book or yelling at the TV. OMG, just talk to each other already. Just say something. This book had several of those opportunities and situations that could just go down that route and just absolutely spiral out of control. But because they were both adults and knew how to speak up and talk to one another, 90% of their problems were resolved through communication. Because I've read quite a few romances since reading this book for the first time, and wow, look at that. Who knew a little communication between the love interests was something I never knew I was missing from a romance book. There was just so many funny banter moments in this book, from the scuba diving and paintballing, and Olive's family is just hilarious and supportive. This book is definitely 5 stars, and I think I might be adding this to my favorite books of all time shelf simply because it just makes me happy. And here is a final look at all of the pages we set up today. I had so much fun setting up these pages, trying something a little bit different, especially with the whole like Dutch door situation, which was nerve-wracking, but I actually think it came out pretty good. As always, I really appreciate you being here and watching. If you want to check out all the spreads that I did for the books that I read in January, I will put that video right here on the left-hand side of the screen. Go check it out and I will see you over there. Bye!